Spread, we have to look into it. That's why we are here. And I want to appeal to our people at home. Let them stay at home. There's no caution more than stay at home.
Along major roads are security agents deployed to ensure that residents comply and vehicles off the roads bearing those on essential duty.
This is mobile traffic courts behind me. The magistrate inside, at least trying the offenders. Anybody that being tried by the magistrate there, is either you pay or we subject such a person to the community service. That's what we are doing. We are not detaining. We give them the option. So either you pay or you do at least 4 hours community service. That's what we are.
Movements in and out of cities are restricted, while major junctions and streets that are usually busy with life and traffic, especially on market days, are almost empty. While the sit-at-home order recorded appreciable compliance in Abeokuta, there was minor business activities for essential workers. Shemilori Amore, Ogtv News.
The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Ogun State Command, has arrested 4 suspects on motorcycle coming from Kotangura, Niger State. The NSCDC State Commander, Ahmed Aboduri, said the suspects were arrested for violating the COVID-19 precautionary measure, and he stressed that the suspects were equally traveling on an unregistered motorcycle, thereby violating traffic law of the land.
They use that small space, so from Kotangura up to Ogere. So when they got to Ogere, they disembarked, and the trailer went to Lagos with one person. So the 4 of them just came down. They also dismounted their bikes and they rode to Abeokuta. So before they were apprehended by our personnel. So they said they are here with the bike to start doing commercial motorbike business. So they said that's why they are here.
He lauded the efforts of officers and men of the command and enjoined them to be more vigilant.
The essence of what we are doing is to ensure that during this period, we don't continue transmission of this COVID-19 problem. Ordinarily, as a Nigerian, you can move to anywhere you want, but the government is saying that don't move now. Wait, let this thing be over so that you can move. So, but because you are moving now, you don't know what you are also carrying. It's either you infect others or others infect you. So that is the issue.
Parading the suspect, the special advisor to the state governor on security, Shola Sabar, stated that the state will not condone any act of lawlessness, stressing that anybody traveling from another state caught during this pandemic will be sent back to his or her respective states.
That these people, apart from taking them to the mobile court, want to ensure also that those that are arrested, that are violating this curfew or this lockdown, are returned to wherever they are coming from. We want to send that message to all the states. If you think you can come from another state to Ogun State, be rest assured that you'll be caught here in Ogun State.
The suspects are Amos Ibrahim, 25, Luda Joshua, 26, Samuel John, and Ayuba Musa, 27, who said he led them to Ogun State because he was familiar with Lafenwa area in Abeokuta. A 22-year-old coronavirus patient receiving the treatment at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Idiaraba, Lagos, has been delivered of a set of twins. Luth Chairman, Medical Advisory Committee, Professor Wasiu Adeyemo, who disclosed this in a statement on Tuesday, said the delivery brings to 4 the number of expectant mothers that had put to bed at the isolation facility. Professor Adeyemo said a team of Luth doctors, anesthetists and nurses on Tuesday, 19th May 2020, delivered the 4th expectant mother diagnosed with COVID-19 of a set of twins, a boy and a girl, through a cesarean section. The chairman said both the mother and babies are doing well. Professor Adeyemo also appreciated the support of the federal government, the Lagos State government, and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. A 33-year-old COVID-19 patients also gave birth at Louth on May 15, while a 37-year-old COVID-19 patient gave birth on May 9. The hospital had also, on April 27, successfully delivered a 40-year-old COVID-19 patient of a baby girl. 18 persons have been discharged from isolation center in Oyo State following the second test of COVID-19 proven negative. Governor Seyi Makinde made the disclosure while giving an update of the pandemic in the state. According to the governor, this brings the number of discharged cases in Oyo State to 46. Makinde said the total number of cases in Oyo State is 118, while COVID-19 related death is 4. 23 members of the Nasarawa House of Assembly have tested negative for COVID-19. The Assembly Committee Chairman of Information, Honorable Muhammad Omadefo, stated this on Tuesday. He said the State Task Force Committee on COVID-19 has already notified Honorable Muhammad Bello Isa that he too is free of the virus after initial suspicion. Omadefo congratulated all members of the Assembly who had to test following the death of Sulaiman Adamu, representing Nasarawa Central State Constituency, of coronavirus on May 4. The House of Representatives have asked the federal government to take steps to reopen the Yaba Vaccine Production Center, closed down in 1991, and ensure that it commences local production of vaccines with immediate effect. The House also asked the minister and agencies under the ministry and the executive director, May and Baker Nigeria PLC, to interface with the relevant committees of the House on possible ways of getting the needed legislative support to fast-track the production of vaccines in Nigeria. Adopting a motion of the urgent need to speed up local production of vaccines in Nigeria, sponsored by Chike John Okafor, the House said bringing back the lab will save the country several billions of naira spent on the importation of vaccines. Within the motion, Okafor said the Yaba Vaccine Production Laboratory in Lagos was active in vaccine production for about 6 decades, between 1940 and 1991, producing large quantities of vaccines against smallpox, rabies, and yellow fever for not only Nigeria, but also for neighboring countries like Cameroon and other African countries. He said the laboratory was closed down by the federal government in 1991 in order to upgrade the facility for optimal production, but regretted that several years later, the facility was still under lock and key till date without any hope of reopening. He said presently, African countries like South Africa, Tunisia, Ethiopia, Madagascar, and Senegal have functional laboratories for production of vaccines for use and exports. Lawmakers at the House of Representatives have questioned the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanire, demanding full details of the activities and whereabouts of the Chinese doctors. The lawmakers at the plenary on Tuesday said they are not satisfied with the statement of the minister that the Chinese doctors are not guests of the Federal Minister of Health, but that of a Chinese firm in Abuja. The resolution of the House stems from a motion of urgent public importance raised by Representative Dachung Bagos. The World Health Organization on Tuesday reported that COVID-19 cases in Africa increased to about 86,000. WHO Regional Office for Africa in Brazzaville, Congo, gave the update on its official Twitter account. WHO also said Lesotho, Comoros, and Seychelles were countries currently with the lowest confirmed cases in the region. It said that Lesotho had only 1 confirmed case with 0 death. Comoros had 11 reported cases and 1 death, while Seychelles recorded 11 confirmed cases with no death. There are over 86,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases on the African continent, with more than 33,000 recoveries and 2,700 deaths, it said. The figures showed that South Africa, Algeria, and Nigeria had the highest reported cases in Africa. According to the report, South Africa had 16,433 cases and 286 deaths, followed by Algeria with 7,201 cases and 555 deaths, while Nigeria had 6,175 confirmed cases and 191 deaths. It added that Ghana had 5,735 reported cases and 29 deaths, while Cameroon recorded 3,529 confirmed cases and 140 deaths. The World Health Organization Regional Director for Africa says African region is on the verge of being certified free of wild poliovirus. Dr. Merti disclosed this on Tuesday at the ongoing virtual World Health Assembly 2020 in Geneva. This is the first time the Assembly, which is WHO's main governing body, will convene virtually since the pandemic began. Still to come, Senate moves to avert emergency food crisis amid COVID-19. More news after the break.
I no fit forget the day we all will life change forever.
It is now a reality. We will all face a global unprecedented crisis.
But even as we dey wrestle with this wahala wey brekete for this kind critical time, we don't promise ourselves say we go do better pass as we dey do before. And wetin we go do no be just for we o, na to see say we customer dem dey safe as we dey give them all the better things wey dem need pass for the price wey no go tear dem pocket. Because that na our work wey we must to do. We tanda gidigba for you all the time, and we go service you with joy and jollity every day.
You must welcome back. This is still Ogtv News, and we are on 260 on DSTV 100 and GoTV and 25 UHF terrestrial. President Muhammadu Buhari has written the Senate to confirm Lamido Yaguda as the new Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Special Assistant on Press to Senate President Israel Tabiewo announced this in a statement on Tuesday. Tabiewo also said 3 other nominees were put forward by the President for confirmation as commissioners in the Securities and Exchange Commission. He said they are Reginald Karawusa, full-time commissioner, Ibrahim Boyi, full-time commissioner, and Obeson Joseph, full-time commissioner. He said his principal read the letter during plenary on Tuesday. The commission is presently headed by Mary Odok in an acting capacity. Kwara State Government has lost a Federal Character Commissioner or designate, James Kolo. The late Kolo died on Tuesday at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital after a brief illness. He hailed from Patigi local government area of the state. The state governor, Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak, has commiserated with the Patigi community and the All Progressives Congress family on the sudden death of the politician. Abdul Razak, in a statement by his media aide, Rafiu Ajakaye, described Kolo as a loyal party man and a team player whose death is a great loss to his family, the people of Patigi local government, and the entire state. Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Muhammad, has inaugurated a post-COVID-19 initiative committee for Nigeria's creative industry. During the virtual inauguration of the committee, Alhaji Lai Muhammad described the industry as a very critical sector of the nation's economy and a major plank of the economic diversification policy of this administration. Among the terms of reference given the committee is assessment of the expected impact of the pandemic on the industry in general. Another is to advise government on how to mitigate job and revenue losses in the sector, as well as to create succor for the industry's small businesses. The committee is also expected to suggest the type of taxation and financing that is best for the industry at this time to encourage growth. Chairman of the 22-man committee is famous and veteran stand-up comedian Ali Baba, while Anita Eboibe is secretary. The committee has 4 weeks to submit its recommendations. The war of words between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, over the Integrated Personnel Information System, IPPIS, is getting hotter. The federal government has revealed that ASU members and the pay-as-you-earn payee tax running into billions of naira over the years. Reacting to criticisms from ASU over discrepancies on recent salary payment, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation disclosed that the rate of tax being applied by tertiary institutions was not correct, leading to underpayment of the payee tax. The Office of the Accountant General of the Federation noted that because of the underpayment, state governments made claims on the federal government to pay the differential arising from underpayment of tax by these institutions. Bowing to pressure from the state government, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation said that the federal government has paid several billions of naira on behalf of these institutions because of the underpayment of the payee tax. It categorically told ASU that the request by the tertiary institution unions to formalize tax evasion through integrated personnel information system is not only tenable, but also an unpatriotic request to violate excellent laws on tax. The Chief Judge of the Federal High Court has released guidelines and practice directions authorizing judges to adopt virtual proceedings for court cases in all its judicial divisions. The Chief Judge, Justice John Soho, issued the practice directions for cases to be heard virtually on Zoom, Skype, or any other audiovisual means approved by the court. The guidelines take effect from Monday, 18th May. The virtual proceeding, however, can only be held with the consent of the parties and the counsels under the new rules. Judges of the court cannot hear more than 9 cases in a day. Judge and counsel involved are also expected to wear the robes for such proceedings. The practice directions add that cases for virtual proceedings shall be stated on the court's list, posted on the court's website, and communicated to counsel and parties either by email or any other electronic means. In keeping with federal and state COVID-19 regulations, the Chief Judge also made the wearing of face masks and maintaining of social distancing mandatory. Every person within the court premises of the court and inside the courtroom is to observe social and physical distancing of not less than 2 meters apart from each other. The Senate on Tuesday passed for second reading a bill to establish the National Food Reserve Agency designed to avert any form of emergency food crisis in the future. The bill is sponsored by Senator Abdullahi Adamu, APC, Nasarawa West. Senator Adamu, while underscoring the need for the diversification of the Nigerian economy, said there was need for enabling laws to address the problem of food insecurity. According to him, the Food Reserve Agency, when established, will be responsible for storing food grains and other food commodities for strategic purposes. Agriculture, he said, plays a pivotal role in the development and growth of every nation, adding that any country seeking to diversify its economy, alleviate poverty, create jobs, and ensure food security should prioritize agriculture. Nigeria, recognizing the important role agriculture plays, has made efforts to place the sector at the fore by introducing different intervention programs and policies backed by enabling laws. The Senate submitted that a further step to be taken to ensure food security in the country at all times is to formulate enabling laws that will address food insecurity. Water resources in Ogun State are capable of generating huge revenue and creating employment opportunities for the state if properly harnessed. Commissioner for Agriculture, Dr. Adiola Odedino, set out this during a visit to an agro-allied and food fish production industry, Premium Aquaculture Limited in Oyo Dam, to assess the progress of the industry and to look for ways of partnering with government to expand the scope of fishery business and the areas of training and employment generation for the youth. Matthew Shomi reports.
This is Oyon Dam, one of the water resources Ogun State is blessed with, which the current administration is determined to harness towards boosting food production and employment generation. The current administration in Ogun State is not leaving out anything in its drive to tap into the great potentials of the state, turn them around, generate wealth from them, and create employment opportunities for the youth. Having achieved so much on land by utilizing its resources for increased food production, attention is now being shifted to the water bodies the state is blessed with in using the potentials for greater good of the state. Premium Aquaculture Limited, with the capacity of 10 million tilapia fish production at a time, has been harnessing the water resources in Ogun State, producing tons of quality fish to service both local and international markets, which the government is very happy to identify with. The visit of the Commissioner for Agriculture, Dr. Adiola Odedino, to the agro-allied industry in Oyon Dam is to, among other things, appreciate the contributions of the industry to the development of the economy, look for areas of partnership while providing trainings and employment generation for the youths. Dr. Odedino says this is part of the efforts to involve private individuals who are into food production and processing in boosting agriculture and in expansion of the value chain for the benefits of the state.
This is a potential area for fish value chain opportunity that we can train young people. And this company is a very responsive one. It's operating in our state and they are paying their dues. So ahead of sharing our job creation agenda on value chain on fish with them, so we are visiting them to support them and also see how they can be a source of support to smallholder farmers, fish farmers, in terms of where can I get my fingerlings, what technology, how can I key into market. We also want to be involved in creating demands and market for them so that they don't fold up.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Dr. Dotun Showunke, says the water resources will be fully tapped into for wealth generation.
We are going around to assess the water assets and resources of Ogun State so that we can put it to judicious use, so that we can harness the water resources for the good people of Ogun State.
General Manager of Premium Aquaculture Limited, Mr. Govinda Raju, says the state has a huge potential in fish production and promises good working partnership with the government.
This farm is the largest tilapia farm in Nigeria as of now. We produce tilapia fingerlings and we grow them in nursery cages, and then we grow those nursery reared fingerlings in cages again up to table size.
The commissioner was also taking around the hatchery, rearing and harvesting points in the facility. Matthew Shomi, Ogtv News.
Thank you, Matthew. In Nigeria, poultry production has provided people with a lot of useful purposes. Details of this and more stories shortly after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Nigeria, poultry production has provided people with a lot of useful purposes as poultry products increased immensely in the last decade. In this special report, Kule Ibikule takes a look at the problem and prospects of poultry farming in Nigeria. Details of his report are in this package.
Ever since government at all levels have been clamoring for diversification from oil to agriculture in Nigeria, poultry farming production has been one of the major alternative sources aside from petroleum in the country. According to some farmers, poultry production is one of the major subsectors that provided Nigerians with nutrients such as poultry meat and eggs, which are source of protein, and over the years, poultry production has contributed tremendously to the economic growth of Nigeria. Poultry production in Nigeria is both for subsistence and commercial purposes and has grown to contribute a good percent of agricultural products to the nation's economy, but needs to be supported through loans.
Farmers are actually on ground with their passions burning inside them. What we lack majorly is support, financial support, technical support, encouragement that can come from, the government.
8,000 poultry farmers registered to be participants in the Anchor Borrowers program. The list has gone to the CBN. About 6,000 of them came out successful. So very soon we've done for cassava. Rice list just come this morning. Very soon we are going to handle that of the poultry.
Speaking on other challenges facing the poultry farming production in Nigeria, farmers identify marketing, diseases, and the current global COVID-19 pandemic as major challenges and call on government to assist in order to create job opportunities for unemployed youths.
If you don't have the technical know-how, the knowledge, basic knowledge of poultry disease and how to combat it, it can ruin the business. So it's a basic challenge. And other challenges like marketing at times could pose a threat to us. And there are times we complain of a glut. The glut is when we have excess production, like eggs, we have excess eggs, and a few customers are coming to buy. So that one too, pose threat.
Any untoward things that we detected, regularly we disinfect live-born markets and livestock markets as such. That's number one. The state government and the federal government exempted farmers. They categorize them as essential so that food supply chain could be maintained.
Nigeria will be able to meet the sustainable level of poultry production in this country if necessary measures are put in place to help people and encourage them to engage in commercial production in a way that will serve the need of Nigerians and for exportation purposes.
As part of its efforts to address security challenges in Plateau State, the federal government on Tuesday deployed 35 special forces to the state. The troops who arrived in the state on board NAV aircraft were moved to the Nigerian Air Force headquarters, 205 Combat Search and Rescue Group in Mangu local government area of the state, where they were received by the commander, Air Commodore Emobo Ebiowe. Speaking with reporters, Air Officer Commandant Special Operations Command, Bauchi, Air Vice Marshal Charles Owo, who led the troops to the state, said that they were part of the 94 Special Forces and 30 search and rescue personnel trained recently by the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar. Air Vice Marshal Owo said the Special Forces were brought to Plateau to add to the security architecture of the state after graduating from their training. The Air Force officers said they are regiment and Special Forces personnel, and they have additional competency in combat search and rescue operation. He said anywhere there is a crisis, including banditry, farmers' herders crisis, they are expected to quell the situation and then return to their base. The Air Vice Marshal expressed optimism that the new efforts aimed at restoring lasting peace in the state will be achieved. Unconfirmed number of Boko Haram fighters has been killed in an airstrike by the Air Task Force of the Operation Lafayette on the outskirts of Dapchi town in Yobe State. Two of the gun trucks used by the terrorists were also destroyed. The operation, according to a statement by the coordinator, Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enaiche, followed credible intelligence that the terrorists riding in 5 vehicles had launched attack on the town. The statement adds a helicopter gunship was scrambled to engage the terrorists, destroying 2 of them and killing the occupants. The Chief of the Air Staff has therefore commended the Air Task Force for their professionalism and directed them to remain resolute towards eradicating the terrorists from the northeast. The Senate on Tuesday called on President Muhammadu Buhari to extend the military action he ordered against bandits in Katsina State to cover contiguous states like Zamfara, Kaduna, Niger, and Sokoto. The upper chamber also called on the military and the police to increase the surveillance operation to track movements by these armed bandits to prevent them from accessing any state haven. It commended Buhari for the directive to launch a military offensive against bandits in Katsina State. These resolutions of the Senate followed its consideration of a motion on the need to integrate adjoining states of Niger, Zamfara, Kaduna, Kebbi, and Sokoto to the ongoing military action against bandits in Katsina. Also on Tuesday, Senator Ibrahim Gobir, Sokoto East, in his contributions, lamented that no fewer than 5,000 members of his constituency have since fled to take refuge in Niger Republic due to the activities of the bandits. The motion was sponsored by Senator Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. President of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, in his remarks, noted that the security challenges are enormous but surmountable. The Nigerian military says troops of Operation Lafidole have continued to annihilate Boko Haram Islamic State of West Africa Province terrorists in the northeast. Major General John Enaiche, coordinator, Defense Media Operations, Defense Headquarters, disclosed this in a statement on Tuesday in Abuja. Enaiche said troops of 212 Battalion under Sector 1 of Operation Lafidole successfully repelled the terrorist attack, killed several insurgents, and recovered arms and ammunition at Gejingana, Ngezai local government area on Sunday. Explained that the troops acted on credible intelligence reports on the convergence and advancement of the terrorists to attack their location at Gejingana from Gune Usmanti village of the local government area. According to him, in response to the attack on ground troops, the Air Task Force scrambled its attack aircraft and helicopter gunships to provide close air support and engage the terrorists in exchange of fire with troops. Further exploitation by 7th Division Garrison discovered 1 destroyed gun truck and 2 abandoned gun trucks at Mituru village. Items recovered include 2 AK-47 rifles, 3 magazines, 36 rounds of 7.62 mm special ammunition, 2 36 hand grenades, and 1 LG-3 bomb. The military high command congratulates the troops on their gallantry and professionalism. The armed forces of Nigeria will remain resolute and continue to sustain the offensive against the enemies of the nation. On business news segment, cuts in crude oil production may deepen Nigeria's recession. Stay tuned for details. Welcome to the business segment of the news. The Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, have agreed to spend over 1 billion naira on the quarantine and feeding of over 3,000 Nigerians awaiting evacuation in foreign countries. The two organizations are expected to share the over 1 billion cost of hotel accommodation and feeding of the returnees for 14 days on arrival in the country amid the coronavirus pandemic. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Yama, disclosed this during a briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in Abuja. The federal government had come under fire for asking prospective returnees to pay 290,000 naira for the isolation and feeding in hotels in Lagos and Abuja. ahead of the evacuation from the United States, United Kingdom, India, China, Thailand, and Canada. A global credit ratings agency, Fitch Ratings, asserts Nigeria's compliance with the oil production cut deal led by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries will lead to deeper economic contraction and fiscal deficit. It said the development will compound pressures on external finances as a result of the slump in oil prices. The ratings agency has said that the country's foreign exchange reserves will fall to $23.3 billion by the end of 2020 from $38.6 billion in December 2019. It said the increased recourse to concessional multilateral loans would ease near-term liquidity pressures, but the risk of a disruptive macroeconomic adjustment will persist. Nigeria is expected to cut production by 417,000 barrels per day to 1.41 million barrels per day in May and June, in addition to condensate production of between 360,000 and 460,000 barrels per day, according to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva. Transactions on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange has halted marginal negative sentiment witnessed last Friday to begin the week with a 37 billion naira gain. The market performance indices of the Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index appreciated by 0.29%, with market breadth closing positive as 25 stocks gained against 13 losers. Consequently, All-Share Index grew by 70.42 basis points or 0.29% from 23.871.33 index points last Friday to 23,941.75, while the market capitalization of equities appreciated by 37 billion naira to close at 12.477 trillion naira from 12.440 trillion naira. On the activity chart, premium subsector dominated in volume terms with 188.5 million shares exchanged in 1,649 deals. In all, investors exchanged a total of 331 million shares in 5,544 deals. And still to come on the foreign segment, President Trump writes letter to WHO. Join us for details on the world today. Welcome back. This is The World Today. President Donald Trump is taking unproven drug hydroxychloroquine to ward off coronavirus, despite public health officials warning it may be unsafe. Also, India begins evacuation of millions of people along its eastern coast ahead of a super cyclone. This and more in The World Today.
U.S. President Donald Trump has sent a letter to the head of the World Health Organization, WHO, threatening to pull U.S. funding permanently over COVID-19. The letter outlines a 30-day deadline for the body to commit a substantive improvement or risk losing millions and U.S. membership altogether. Addressed to WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, it criticized stages of the body's response since December. Earlier on Monday, Mr. Trump called the UN's chief body a puppet of China. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has said he is taking hydroxychloroquine to ward off coronavirus despite public health officials warning it may be unsafe. Speaking at the White House, he told reporters he started taking the malaria and lupus medication recently. "I'm taking it for about a week and a half now, and I'm still here," was his surprise announcement.
This is a pill that's been used for a long time, for 30, 40 years on the malaria and on lupus too, and even on arthritis, I guess, from what I understand. So it's been heavily tested in terms of, I was just waiting to see your eyes light up when I said this, but, you know, when I announced this. But yeah, I've taken it for about a week and a half now, and I'm still here.
This is no evidence hydroxychloroquine can fight coronavirus, and regulators have warned the drug may cause heart problems. France and Germany are proposing a 500 billion euros European Recovery Fund to be distributed to EU countries worst affected by COVID-19. In talks, French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel agreed that the funds should be provided as grants. The proposal represents a significant shift in Mrs. Merkel's position. Mr. Macron said it was a major step forward and was what the Eurozone needs to remain united. The number of people claiming unemployment benefits in the UK soared to 2.1 million last month, the first full month of the coronavirus lockdown. The total in April went up by 856,500, the Office for National Statistics said. Separate ONS figures showed UK unemployment rose by 50,000 to 1.35 million in the 3 months. The unemployment rate was estimated at 3.9%, slightly down on the previous quarter, the ONS said. Before the lockdown, employment had hit record high. More than half of elderly COVID-19 victims in Sweden have died in care homes. Some healthcare workers believe an institutional reluctance to admit patients to hospitals is costing lives. Lily Seger's father, Raza, was not seen by a doctor on the day he died from coronavirus at his care home in northern Stockholm. Most of the 3,698 people who have died from coronavirus in Sweden so far were over 70, despite the fact that the country said shielding risk groups was its top priority. Sweden, with many inhabitants, has kept more of society open than is the case in most. The Indian capital, Delhi, the government has allowed shops to open, but says malls, schools, colleges, cinemas, halls, bars, hair salons and spas will remain closed. However, Delhi's local markets will be able to open all their shops. Previously, only stores that sold essential items were able to function. Additionally, e-commerce services, even for non-essential items, will be allowed to operate. In terms of transport, public transportation like buses are allowed with only 20 passengers at a time. India has begun evacuating millions of people along its eastern coast ahead of a super cyclone in the Bay of Bengal. The storm is expected to make landfall on Wednesday and hit West Bengal and Orissa states. More than 20 relief teams have already been deployed and several more than on standby, officials say. The cyclone has tens of thousands of migrant workers flee cities for their villages during India's lockdown to curb the spread of coronavirus. And that's it on the world today.
That was a compilation by Bukola Bakizo of our foreign desk. To come on the sports segments of the news, UEFA sets June date for Manchester City's appeal on ban. Nigeria coach General will sign a new contract next week after agreeing on terms to extend his 4-year stay with one of Africa's football powerhouses, the National Football Body said on Tuesday. During the new 2-year contract, Raw will be expected to lead Nigeria to qualification for a 7th World Cup finals and the 2020 Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon. Raw 66 has been in charge of the 3-time African champions since 2016. The former Niger and Gabon coach led Nigeria to the 2018 World Cup in Russia and the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations staged in Egypt, where the team placed 3rd. Top officials have insisted on inserting new provisions in the contract, such as paying Raw in local currency as against his current 45,000 euros monthly salary. He is also expected to spend more time living in Nigeria. Manchester City's appeal against a 2-year ban from European club competition will begin on 8th June at the Court of Arbitration for Sports. The Premier League champions were given a punishment by UEFA in February after being found to have committed serious breaches of club licensing and financial fair play regulations. City have denied the breaches, saying they are simply not true. The hearing is listed for 3 days and is not open to the public. The Court of Arbitration for Sports procedures involve an exchange of written submissions between the parties, while a panel of arbitrators is convened to hear the appeal. There were 6 positive tests for coronavirus across 3 Premier League clubs on Sunday and Monday as the top flight prepares to resume in June. The unnamed players or staff who have tested positive from the 748 total tests conducted will now self-isolate for 7 days. Squads are starting non-contact training from Tuesday. The Premier League has been suspended since March 13 because of the COVID-19 pandemic, with 92 fixtures remaining. The league had previously identified June 12 for matches to possibly start again, but there is now an expectation this will need to be pushed back. Manchester United have warned fans to stay away from matches played behind closed doors at Old Trafford if the Premier League restarts amid the coronavirus crisis. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side are set to resume small group training on Wednesday as Premier League clubs step up the project restart to finish the season. But all 92 remaining matches will have to be played in front of empty stands due to the pandemic, leading United to activate a refund or rebate to ticket holders for the remaining home fixtures. If the Premier League get the wish to play at clubs' normal stadiums rather than at neutral venues, then United will have 4 home league matches to play. Aware of the danger of supporters gathering in large groups during the health crisis, United have pleaded with the fans